Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and today I will be sharing my time with the member from Surrey White Rock. I am honoured to rise to speak on the opposition motion presented by the Leader of the Official Opposition. Tomorrow, we will hear from the Finance Minister the government's plans on the future of Canada's economy and for all Canadians. Our ask of this government is simple. No further tax hikes, measures to address youth unemployment, a plan to see the budget balanced by 2019, and no plan to sell Canadian airports that involve revenues to finance the Canada Infrastructure Bank, selling to investors influenced by foreign governments, and no hikes to user fees for our taxpayers and travellers. Mr. Speaker, in Budget 2016, we heard a great deal from this government how they are planning to grow the middle class and help families. But from this budget, what did we actually see, and what were the end user effects? As I have said often in this House, I am the mother of 5 children. Issues such as the cost of post-secondary education, employment opportunities, affordable housing, and taxes are commonly discussed. I want to know that my children have a chance at a good future and a chance to have the same opportunities that I have had. In a report circulated by the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, we have seen statistics comparing 2012 and 2016 data. In 2012, 48% of respondents stated that they feel that the next generation's standard of living would be lower. We have actually seen an increase in this number in 2016, and over 58% of Canadians now indicate that they feel the next generation's standard of living would be lower. That is a huge increase, sir, especially when we see these elements that this government is pushing. This same document stated similar findings when asked. Canadians are increasingly feeling that left out of the middle class. In 2009, 63.3% felt that they were part of the middle class, with 28.9% indicating that they were in the working class or poor. In 2016, just 3 months following the federal budget and changes to the Canada Child Benefit and changes to the tax rates, only 48% felt they were part of the middle class, and a hike to 44.3% felt they were part of the working class or poor. To me, sir, these are not good results. This document indicates the job insecurity is increasing, saving for retirement is harder, and the growth has not been inclusive. Mr. Speaker, I would like to focus on the future and the future of this country. Tomorrow, we are potentially going to hear a plan focused on the National Child Care Program and social housing. We are going to hear from this Liberal government plans to create new jobs through innovation investments. We may hear if they're planning on selling capital assets to finance infrastructure banks. And we're going to hear that Canadians are going to be burdened with more taxes, whether it's today or in the future. The 2016 budget introduced the Canada Child Benefit while eliminating the Universal Child Care Benefit and the Canada Child Tax Benefits. We saw the cancellation of important tax credits to families, including the Canada Child Fitness Tax Credit and Arts Credit. We saw income splitting eliminated for families. While some families may be receiving more money through tax benefits, is this government making a plan to help families long-term? I am also proud to be from a riding with many smaller municipalities who rely on volunteers who include firefighters. In this budget, I fear that important tax credits, including the tax credit for volunteer firefighters and search and rescue workers, will be eliminated. We have to think, without these credits, what will the impact to municipalities like Central Elgin and the municipality of BAM in my riding, where volunteers not only put out fires, but also do the search and rescue missions on the shores of Lake Erie? What are these effects going to be? There's also murmurs of elimination of public transit tax credits, and extremely important in my community, once again, the tradesperson's tool deductions. So at the end of the day, people will be paying more taxes. Through the HUMA Committee, we studied a poverty reduction strategy, and the committee is finalizing a report on the findings. Some witnesses clearly indicated that important factors such as skills development, high taxes, and unreliable income are issues that are not being dealt with. When looking at some of these strategies that this government has spoken of in the past year, we have seen Band-Aid solutions. This is not going to lead this country to growth and prosperity. We need solid plans, not just more spending. This government promised to remove the cap on post-secondary education for Indigenous people. We know that education will provide important skill development and knowledge that will help those living on reserve. But we have not seen or heard anything about this in the past 18 months regarding this important issue. When reviewing the pre-budget tour, The State of the Middle Class, put out by the minister, it notes that certain groups remain particularly vulnerable to poverty, specifically Indigenous people on reserves. So will this government do the right thing and remove this cap? Youth employment is also a huge concern. In the 2015 election, the Liberal Party focused on youth employment while scolding the Conservative government for their initiatives and belittling the efforts of the Canada Summer Jobs. Trust me, it happened to me in my own debates. But in reality, increases to temporary work for summer students is all we have seen from this government.
Exactly.
We need to make sure that we are looking at a labour force and matching the skills development. Has this government taken any step to fill this gap in the labour force by making sure that we are graduating students from programs where employment opportunities actually exist? I currently have 2 children in post-secondary education. I know the expenses that are incurred for each year of education, and especially since we do assist with some of those costs. The costs that include housing, tuition, and food. My son pays $950 a month in rent in the City of Toronto so he could go to George Brown College. Each year costs each of my children approximately $17,000. But what are we going to do so that students have employment to assist not only with their current education, but down the road when they're trying to pay off these loans? Are we going to be sure that when our children graduate that there is actually going to be employment so that they can get both on their 2 feet? We know that the best way out of poverty is sustainable, reliable, and decent income. The most reliable method of gaining this income is through a job. We support job creation through tax rate to small businesses and avoiding needless government debts. So what is this government going to do to assist Canadians to get ahead? If we're looking at the government's record, we see the following: a decrease to disposable income through the Canada Pension Plan tax hikes, the cancellation of the small business tax rate, potential taxes on health and dental benefits, and potential user fees. The first 3 of the 4 points hurt employers. These employers are the people who employ Canadians in the private sector. It is the private sector that keeps our economy healthy. According to a study published by the Fraser Institute, Canada has put itself at a disadvantage to attract and retain skilled labour, investment, and entrepreneurs due to the personal income tax rates. That in response was a truly failed expectation by this government to increase the revenues. So what have we seen is less revenue, but more spending. We have heard for months with the new administration of the United States that they'll be focusing on lowering taxes, and right now we do not have a plan to compete with this new reality. I live in a community with U.S. borders both to the east and the west with my riding and along the 401 corridor. Over 500,000 vehicles per day travel this highway with billions of dollars of goods transported through this corridor. My area is filled with agricultural producers and manufacturing facilities that rely on trade and export to the United States. If Canada cannot remain competitive, what is going to happen to these jobs and to these goods that, since they will cost more to produce here in Canada? We need to have a plan to be competitive, and I do not see the Liberal government creating a solid plan that can be implemented immediately. This government must come forward with a low-tax plan to remain competitive that in turn creates high-paying jobs. Just yesterday, I read a quote in the National Post, and I quote, "Middle-income Canadians may take comfort in the Liberal message, but this messaging hasn't yet resulted in policies to increase median incomes. At some point, middle-class Canadians may start to wonder when the Liberal message will be finally backed up with cash." To me, Mr. Speaker, this means income and employment opportunities. I am concerned that this government's plan does not consider any of these factors, and we are jeopardizing the future of young Canadians, families, and Indigenous people. We need to make sure that there is job security, that the abilities for businesses to invest and grow, and that there's the ability for us to be competitive. Will this budget do what is necessary for Canadians as a whole? I guess we will find out tomorrow what this government is planning for its future and the future of Canada. And I'm hoping that it does not come with a $30 billion price tag for the next generation.
Questions and comments? Question commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for her speech. And look, the Conservative Party is putting forward a document today that would have us essentially rewrite the fiscal and the economic framework of the government. We know that elections have consequences, and we know that what the Liberal Party proposed to Canadians, which is relief for the middle class, which is looking after our most vulnerable in the form of the guaranteed income supplement, which is looking after our manufacturing and our innovative sectors with job training, with ability to grow our businesses here in Canada, with renewed focus on families, 9 out of 10 families better off, with the Canada Child Benefit that they can now choose to spend as they wish. One would argue sometimes that that's a conservative ideal, but I guess that's not something they could support because they voted against it. But look, my colleague is from southwestern Ontario. We've put all of these measures in place that will help families in her very riding. Will the member not agree that these Liberal policies have been good for southwest Ontario and for Canada generally?
Well, member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Well, I thank the member for his question. And let's go back to the statistics that I just read from the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, where we have seen 10% increase in the number of families that feel that they are no longer part of the middle class. If this program is working, there would not be the feelings out there where people are saying that they're doing worse. And this was documents from his own minister. So I think those are things that we have to be aware of. When we talk about the child benefit, we did not necessarily go against the child benefit. We went through we voted against a $30 billion deficit. And I think it's great to sit there and tweak out what you think we're pulling apart, because this is what I've seen. You're talking about lowering the taxes on the middle class, but you're forgetting that you had a $30 billion price tag attached to this. And you know something? It's going to be my 5 children and all of the children of all of these members and all Canadians that will be paying for this outrageous spending.
Good job.